My name's Caleb, I'm 29, and for most of my adult life, I've been the dependable one in the family. Not the loudest, not the favorite, just dependable. I'm the one who remembers birthdays, offers rides to the airport, and bails people out when the rent's late or the car breaks down. I've always tried to be generous, sometimes to a fault. I was raised to believe that family sticks together, that we support each other through thick and thin. I held on to that belief way longer than I probably should have. And to be honest, I think they knew it. They counted on it. I come from a big, messy, opinionated family. 3 sisters, 2 brothers, 2 divorces, and 1 matriarch, my mom, who still tries to play peacekeeper despite being the root of a lot of the chaos herself. Our group chats are always active, filled with the usual stuff: someone's new job, someone else's new baby, petty arguments about who forgot to call who back. I usually stay out of the drama unless it directly affects me. That changed recently. And when it did, it wasn't loud at first. It was subtle. A sentence, a tone, a pause on the phone that lasted a beat too long. You know those moments where you don't realize until later that something shifted? Yeah, this story starts with one of those. It began in mid-May. My fiancée, Leah, and I had been together for 4 years. We got engaged last fall. Just us, no big announcement, no dramatic photo shoot, just a walk through a park and a quiet yes. We were planning a small wedding for the following spring, but honestly, the whole planning part had taken a back seat to life lately. Work was intense for both of us. I'm in logistics, she's in early childhood education, and we'd both been counting the days until our upcoming family vacation. A whole week off the grid at a rented beach house on the North Carolina coast. 7 days of sunshine, sand, and supposedly, no stress. I say supposedly because things unraveled long before we even packed our bags. The trip had been my idea originally. I floated it in the family chat back in February, half expecting it to fizzle out like most of our big group plans. But surprisingly, everyone was in. My mom was thrilled, my siblings were all excited, and within a week, I'd volunteered to coordinate the logistics. That meant finding the house, managing the booking, and, because I had the highest credit limit, paying the initial deposit. No one asked me to. I just did it, because again, I'm the dependable one. I picked a gorgeous house, beachfront, 5 bedrooms, big kitchen, outdoor grill, the works. And I made it very clear from the start that Leah would be coming with me. Now, here's where it starts to get weird. Leah's been to several family events. Holidays, birthdays, even my niece's kindergarten graduation. She's always been polite, helpful, and frankly better at navigating my family's chaos than I am. But not everyone warmed up to her. My older sister, Paige, was especially standoffish. She's the type who talks sweet to your face and then rolls her eyes the second you leave the room. Paige never had a real reason not to like Leah. She just didn't. I chalked it up to jealousy, or maybe just Paige being Paige. But over time, her coolness started to spread. It was small things at first. Passive-aggressive digs. Leah being left off a group text about dinner plans. My brother Jordan once made a joke about how fast some women get their claws into the family, while Leah was literally sitting across from him. I called him out, and he brushed it off with that classic, smug, "I was just kidding" tone. Leah never made a fuss. She always handled it with grace, but I could see it wearing on her. Still, we were looking forward to the trip. Despite everything, we needed the break, and I figured being together for a whole week would give everyone a chance to reconnect. I kept telling myself this vacation would be the reset button we all needed. That was until 3 days before we were set to leave. I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone started buzzing like crazy. Missed calls, texts from my sister Paige, my mom, even Jordan. At first, I thought something had happened. I excused myself and checked my messages. The first one from Paige read, "Hey, quick thing about the trip. Can you give me a call?" Then another. "So we were talking, and we think it'd be better if Leah didn't come. Nothing personal, but this trip should really just be blood family." I stared at it for a minute, thinking I'd misread. But the rest of the texts confirmed it. My family had apparently decided, on their own, without me, that my fiancé wasn't really family yet. My mom's message tried to soften the blow. "Caleb, honey, you know we love Leah, but with so many people, it just feels like we should keep it simple. No plus ones. We want this to be about family bonding." I called Paige first. She answered on the first ring, all fake cheer. "Hey, so glad you called. Did you see our messages?" Yeah, I said slowly. I saw them. What exactly is going on? She launched into this bizarre explanation about how they all talked it through and felt it would be less chaotic if only immediate family came. No kids, no fiancés, no girlfriends, just the core family. But Leah is immediate, I said. We're engaged. She's going to be my wife. There was a pause. Then Paige said, yeah, but she's not technically yet. You know what I mean. It's not personal. That phrase again. Not personal. Except of course it was. I hung up shortly after, not trusting myself to keep the anger out of my voice. Leah was sitting on the couch when I came out of the room. She looked up at me, already knowing something was wrong. They don't want me there, she said quietly. I nodded. They said they wanted to be just blood family. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Okay, I won't go. I sat beside her, heart pounding, stomach sinking. I hated how calm she was, how quickly she accepted it. That was the part that hurt the most, how used to this kind of thing she was. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept going over everything in my head. The months of planning, the money I'd already put down, the fact that not once, had anyone brought this up before now. They waited until the last second, and they assumed I'd just roll with it, that I'd go along with their decision, like always. But they'd miscalculated, because what they didn't realize was that the beach house was booked in my name. The deposit? Paid with my card. The balance? Not due until check-in. They thought they could cut Leah out and still enjoy the vacation I made possible. And that, more than anything, lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to pull the rug out from under them in the calmest, most surgical way possible. And it started with one simple message the next morning. Just 2 sentences, sent to the family group chat. Understood about Leah. No problem. I'll respect your wishes. But I won't be bringing my wallet either. Then I turned off my phone and waited. I woke up the next morning to 27 missed messages. I didn't check them right away. Instead, I made breakfast with Leah like it was any other weekend. She was unusually quiet, but not distant, just thoughtful, maybe trying to read my mood before asking anything. She knew I wasn't the type to act impulsively. She also knew that when I said I wasn't bringing my wallet, I wasn't bluffing. We sat down with our coffee, eggs, and toast, and I finally unlocked my phone. My notifications lit up like a Christmas tree. It was a progression. At first, the messages were full of confusion. Wait, what do you mean? Caleb? What wallet? Then it quickly spiraled into a digital meltdown. Are you seriously canceling on us because of this? Don't be dramatic. We're literally asking for one thing. We've already packed. And from Jordan, dude, you can't screw us over like this. Paige, as expected, leaned fully into martyr mode. I was just trying to keep the trip simple and stress-free. I didn't mean for any of this to get blown out of proportion. If Leah staying behind is that big of a deal, just say so. I thought we were on the same page. Right. Because nothing says on the same page, like blindsiding me 3 days before the trip with a thinly veiled, your fiancé doesn't count message. But the one that hit me hardest came from my mom. I love you, Caleb, but you're being unfair. We didn't exclude Leah because we don't love her. We just wanted this vacation to be about us. You've always been so level-headed. Don't let her create a wedge between you and your family. Leah, who had been sipping her coffee beside me in silence, noticed my expression tighten. Let me guess, she said softly. I'm the problem now. I handed her the phone without a word. She scrolled through the messages. I watched her face. She didn't cry, didn't say anything, just nodded to herself like she'd finally received confirmation of something she already suspected. I don't want you to cancel your trip, she said. It's not worth the drama. I reached for her hand across the table. Leah, they don't get to treat you like this. Not anymore. Not while expecting me to foot the bill. She stared down at her plate. It just sucks. I thought things were getting better. Yeah, so did I. But the messages kept coming, and they weren't getting any kinder. The tone shifted fast. First it was confusion, then guilt-tripping, then anger. You're being manipulative. You always act like you're better than the rest of us. You think money gives you power, but it doesn't buy you family, Caleb. That last one was from Jordan. I had to laugh at that. Jordan, who still owed me close to $4,000 from a loan 3 years ago that he'd conveniently forgotten, was lecturing me about what money could and couldn't buy. I didn't reply, not to any of them. Instead, I called the rental agency. The woman who answered was polite and sympathetic. I explained I needed to cancel the reservation. She informed me that I'd lose the deposit, which I already expected, but the remaining balance wouldn't be charged since we were still within the cancellation window. Do you want to reschedule or just cancel outright? She asked. I paused. Then I looked over at Leah, still sitting quietly in her robe, pretending to read her book. Actually, I said, I'd like to reschedule for 2 people. I booked the same house just 1 week later. Same beachfront view. Same 7 days. Same perfect getaway. Only this time, it would be just me and Leah. No group texts. No whispered judgments. No Paige rolling her eyes. No Jordan asking if I could cover the groceries and he'd Venmo me later. No one leaving Leah out of dinner plans or mocking her job or pretending her chair wasn't empty at the table. Just us. I waited a full day before telling the family. I did it with 1 screenshot. The new reservation confirmation. Date changed. Occupancy changed. Names changed. The group chat went dead for 4 hours. Then Paige broke the silence. So we're not going? Did you really cancel the whole thing because of Leah? You could have just talked to us. This was childish. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded them the cancellation notice. No message. No explanation. Just the cold, impersonal confirmation email that spelled out, in bold black letters, reservation has been canceled per guest request. It was a few minutes later that my mom called. I ignored it. She tried again. Then she left a voicemail. Caleb, sweetheart, I know you're upset. I just wish you'd come to me first before doing something so final. This trip was supposed to be for all of us. Can't we just fix this? I saved the voicemail. I don't know why. Maybe because I could hear it, the subtle shift in her voice. The realization. The fear behind the softness. They knew now. Knew that this wasn't just about Leah. It was about every single time they took me for granted and assumed I'd just go along. Smile through it. Pay for it. Swallow it. But this wasn't the end of it. 2 days before the original trip date, I got an email from my brother Jordan with the subject line, "Can you just listen?" I opened it, half expecting more guilt tripping. But it wasn't that. It was worse. Jordan had gone behind my back, contacted the rental agency himself, tried to convince them that he was the organizer and that there had been a mix-up with the reservation, claimed the deposit was accidentally put on my card and that the booking should be transferred to him. He even offered to pay again in full just to secure the dates. But the agency declined, politely but firmly. They informed him that unless his name was on the reservation, it wasn't, or he had written permission from the cardholder, he didn't. They couldn't legally transfer anything. He attached the agency's reply to his email, then added this. Come on, man. Don't let your pride ruin this. We already told everyone we were going. People booked time off. Kids are excited. Don't punish everyone over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That's what they were calling it now. After telling my fiancée she wasn't welcome. After telling me she wasn't really family. After waiting until the last possible moment. Assuming I'd be too spineless to say no. Leah and I were watching a movie when I read that email. She leaned her head on my shoulder, unaware of what I was reading. I didn't say anything about it. Not yet. The next day, my phone rang again. It was Paige. I answered. She didn't say hello. Just launched into it. I don't understand what you're trying to prove. Excuse me. I said. All of this. Canceling the trip. Ignoring everyone. Acting like you're some kind of victim. It's exhausting. I let the silence hang in the air. She continued. I'm just saying. If Leah is that sensitive, maybe it's a sign. I nearly dropped the phone. Say that again, I said. You heard me. Paige snapped. We didn't say she couldn't ever come. We just thought this trip would be better if it was just us. That's not some horrible crime. You told my fiancée she wasn't family. 3 days before the trip. After I paid for everything. Well, maybe next time you should make it clear that everything's contingent on bringing your +1, she said, her voice cold. Otherwise, don't be surprised when people start acting like it's still our family vacation. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet, internal crack. The kind that happens when years of small slights and forced tolerance finally hit their limit. Don't worry, I said, my voice low. There won't be a next time. Then I hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, thinking about every birthday where I'd overpaid so no one else had to. Every group dinner where I picked up the check because no one else reached for their wallet. Every phone call where I played therapist while they vented about their latest drama, then hung up without asking about my life. And Leah? Always the outsider. Always walking on eggshells. No more. And just when I thought the silence would hold, just when I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd back off and let it go, I got another message. From Jordan. But this time, it wasn't just a message. It was a photo of my mom, Paige, Jordan, and the rest of them, on a beach, smiling, with the caption, "Changed plans. Found our own spot. Looks like we didn't need you after all." They had rebooked. Somewhere else. At the last minute. Without telling me. Without apologizing. And that was the moment. The betrayal wasn't the message itself. It was the look on their faces. The smugness. The finality. The way they made sure I'd see it. And that's when I knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. When I saw the picture Jordan sent, something inside me went quiet. Not angry. Not heartbroken. Just still. It was like staring down a long hallway of memories and realizing, all at once, that the door had already closed behind you, and you hadn't even noticed. My family, sprawled across folding chairs on a different beach, drinks in hand, sunglasses on, smiles stretched wide across their faces like nothing happened. Like I didn't exist. Like Leah had never been mentioned. They'd found a way to move forward without me. Or at least, they wanted to show me they could. I locked my phone, set it face down. Then I just sat there. Leah came in a few minutes later, humming quietly to herself with a towel over her shoulder and wet hair from her shower. She paused when she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked. I didn't want to show her the picture. I didn't want her to think this was about her, because it wasn't. Not really. It was about me finally understanding my place in a family I'd spent years putting first. I stood up, took her hand, and said, "Come with me." We got in the car. No bags. No cooler. No packed beach supplies. Just the two of us. I drove an hour and a half north, to the kind of quiet stretch of coast no one in my family would think to look. I didn't speak the whole drive. Leah didn't press. That was one of the things I loved most about her. She knew when to ask, and when to just be there. We parked and walked down to the sand barefoot. There were no crowds, no volleyball nets, no kids shrieking with water guns. Just waves, wind, and that late afternoon golden light you only get in early summer. We sat in silence for a long time. And then, finally, I told her everything. Showed her the picture, the caption, the messages. She stared at it for a few seconds, then shook her head, smiling without humor. "I'm not surprised," she said. "That stung more than I expected." She looked at me. I hoped things would get better. I wanted to believe they could. "But Caleb, your family's been like this since day one." "I know," I said quietly. "Do you?" she asked. "Because every time they pushed, you gave. Every time they tested your boundaries, you moved the line." I didn't argue, because she was right. She brushed sand from her ankle. "You're always so afraid of being the bad guy, so afraid of disappointing them, because they made me believe I owed them everything," I said, surprising even myself. Like I was supposed to carry the weight because I could. Leah didn't say anything, just took my hand and held it. We stayed until the sun started to dip. And in that moment, something shifted, not in the world, but in me. I wasn't going to beg them to see my side. I wasn't going to send long messages trying to explain myself. I was done being the default yes man. That night, when we got home, I opened the group chat one last time. Not to argue, not to fight. I typed, "Glad you found a new place. Hope you all enjoy it." Then I left the chat. Just like that. I half expected someone to add me back. No one did. Over the next few days, the silence stretched. No calls. No updates. No questions about where I was. It was like I'd never existed. Like I'd been edited out of the family timeline. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. Because it did. Leah tried her best to keep things light. She made pancakes in funny shapes. She suggested movie marathons. We played cards late into the night, and she let me win even when I knew she had the better hand. But I still caught myself scrolling through old photos when she wasn't looking. Christmas mornings. Thanksgiving dinners. Backyard cookouts. All those moments where I smiled for the camera, unaware that something darker was brewing just outside the frame. I didn't realize how much of my identity was tied up in being part of the family until I was suddenly not. The fall wasn't dramatic. No emotional breakdowns. No shouting. Just a slow, hollow unraveling. Like realizing the house you've been living in has cracks in the foundation, and all your furniture is already sitting crooked. For a week, I did the bare minimum at work. I answered emails, took calls, but my heart wasn't in it. I kept thinking about that beach house, how perfect it was, how excited I'd been to share it with the people I thought mattered most, how fast they made me feel disposable. Then, on a Thursday morning, something changed. Leah left a note on the counter before work. Nothing poetic, just a line, scribbled on the back of a receipt. Let them go. You've got better things to build. I stared at those words for a long time. Better things to build. I sat down at my computer and pulled up the beach house reservation again. Our new reservation. The one for just the two of us. And I started making plans. We weren't just going to salvage a trip. We were going to make it ours. Fully. Authentically. Without compromise. I sent in a request to upgrade the package, added a private chef night, a beachside couples massage, and even booked a local photographer for a session at sunset. I bought Leah a new beach dress she'd once admired in a store window, but never splurged on. I ordered champagne, her favorite brand, to be chilled and waiting in the fridge when we arrived. It wasn't about money. It was about choice. I was choosing her. Fully. And choosing us. Without needing anyone's permission. Leah teared up when she saw everything I'd planned, though she tried to hide it behind a sarcastic comment about how I was going to make it hard to top this for our honeymoon. But I could tell what it really meant to her, that for once, she didn't feel like an afterthought. She felt prioritized. The week of the trip came fast. We packed light, left our phones on silent, and drove with the windows down, music up, wind in our hair. Every mile that passed felt like a layer peeling away, like shedding old skin. The house was even better than I remembered. Warm wood floors, big glass windows facing the ocean, a kitchen that begged to be cooked in. Leah danced barefoot across the living room, spinning like a little kid, laughing louder than I'd heard in weeks. That first night, we sat on the back deck with wine and watched the tide roll in. No expectations, no obligations, just peace. And maybe it sounds silly, but I felt something settle inside me. Like for the first time in my adult life, I didn't need my family's approval to feel whole. We spent the week building our own traditions. Morning coffee walks on the beach, making seafood pasta from scratch, late-night games, and old movie marathons. On the night we'd scheduled the photographer, Leah wore the dress I bought her, and we took pictures barefoot in the surf. I looked at her and thought, this is the family I want to build. And slowly, the bitterness started to fade. I stopped checking for messages. I stopped replaying the betrayal in my head. Instead, I started thinking about what came next. Because if there's one thing being excluded taught me, it's how much time I'd spent living in their shadow, letting their opinions shape my self-worth, letting their needs override mine. Not anymore. I came home from that trip lighter. Not just emotionally, but mentally. I started going to the gym again, eating better. I even dusted off a side business idea I'd abandoned a year ago and started sketching it out in earnest. Leah noticed the change. You're different, she said one morning over breakfast. How so? You stand straighter. You laugh more. You don't flinch every time your phone buzzes. I smiled. That's because I turned off notifications. But I knew what she meant. I wasn't waiting for approval anymore. I wasn't chasing peace from people who never wanted me to have it. I was creating it on my own. A few weeks later, I bumped into an old friend of mine from high school, Ben. We grabbed lunch, caught up, and talked business. He mentioned he was expanding his operations and looking for a partner who knew logistics. The kind of offer I might have turned down 6 months ago because I didn't want to rock the boat or take on too much. But now, I said yes. We shook hands. And just like that, something new began. Not in spite of what happened, but because of it. And while the wounds were still there, quiet, healing, I could finally look ahead without bitterness. But just as I started to truly move forward, to rebuild my sense of self without them, they came back. Not all at once. Not with apologies. But with something else entirely. A request. And with it, a threat. It started with a knock. Not a metaphorical one. A real, physical knock at our door. Sharp. Rapid. The kind that's too purposeful to be friendly. Leah and I were in the middle of hanging new shelves in the living room. I'd just gotten off a late afternoon Zoom call with Ben about our new logistics platform. Business was picking up faster than I anticipated. We'd secured 2 new contracts that week alone, and Leah was already looking at office spaces I could eventually lease. The house smelled like fresh wood and takeout. The mood was light. Until that knock. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door. My mother stood on the porch, wearing a long beige cardigan like it was armor, clutching her purse with both hands like it might float away. Her eyes darted behind me, clearly checking if Leah was visible. "Hi," she said, all breezy and breathless like this was a surprise encounter instead of an ambush. I didn't step aside. "Hi." She smiled, that tight, rehearsed kind of smile that never quite reaches the eyes. "Can I come in?" I hesitated for a second, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted her to feel that hesitation. Then I stepped aside without a word. Leah looked up from the shelf she was adjusting, froze, then quietly excused herself to the kitchen. I appreciated that. She trusted me to handle it. Mom and I sat. There was a silence, so heavy it felt like it had physical weight. She cleared her throat. "You look good. Healthy. I saw that photo of you two on the beach." "You saw that?" I interrupted. She nodded. "Jordan forwarded it." I nodded slowly. "Of course he did." Another silence. "I'm not here to rehash everything," she said. "But something came up, and I thought you should hear it from me." I waited. She reached into her bag and pulled out a crisp folder. Not dramatic, not a thick stack, just a few printed documents. "The house," she said. "Grandma's beach house." I blinked. "What about it?" "She passed last month." I stared at her. "She passed, and no one told me?" "She didn't want a funeral," Mom said quickly. "You know how she was. She wanted it quiet. No fuss. We respected her wishes." "We." The word hit wrong, like I was already excluded from the list. I didn't speak. I just waited for her to continue. "She left the house to the family. There's no official will. We think she never updated it, but the paperwork's a bit messy. The deed's still in her name. But we found a letter, written a few years ago." I raised an eyebrow. "A letter?" She nodded. "Addressed to you." I reached for it, but she held it back. "There's a lot riding on how this plays out," she said, and suddenly the rehearsed calm started to crack. "The property taxes are overdue. It needs work. The rest of us have been talking, and we think the best move is to sell it. And we need your help." There it was. The turn. The reason she was on my doorstep. "We need someone to file a petition to transfer the deed. Since Grandma mentioned you in the letter, you'd have a claim. You're good with paperwork. Good with, logistics." I leaned back in my chair. Let the words wash over me. She didn't say we're sorry. She didn't say you deserved better. She said we need your help. "Who else has seen the letter?" I asked. She hesitated. "Just Paige. And Jordan." "Of course. And this letter," I said slowly. "Does it say the house is mine?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. She placed the envelope on the coffee table like it was radioactive and slowly pushed it toward me. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten note from Grandma, dated 2 years ago. "Caleb, I know your mother won't like this, but you're the only one I trust. The beach house should go to someone who'll actually appreciate it. Someone who doesn't see it as a quick sale and a paycheck. I wanted you to have it. If I forget to make it official, I hope this is enough. Love you always. Grandma." I read it twice. 3 times. The paper was yellowing, the ink slightly faded, but it was her handwriting. No doubt about it. When I looked up, my mom was watching me carefully, gauging. "So let me get this straight," I said. "You want me to use this letter to transfer the deed, so you all can sell the house?" She nodded. "We'd split it, of course. Equally, even though she left it to me." She was old, she said. She probably didn't realize what she was saying. I almost laughed. "She called the rest of you out by name in the letter." Mom flinched at that. "She didn't mean." "She did," I cut in. "And you know it." I sat back and took a deep breath. And in that moment, something clicked. This was the leverage I didn't know I needed. Because here was the truth. Grandma's beach house wasn't some crumbling shack. It was in a prime location, coastal Carolina, walking distance from high-end developments, with a private dock. I'd helped her maintain it 2 summers ago when she got sick. I knew what it was worth. I also knew what they didn't. Because while they were chasing quick cash, I was sitting on a letter worth 6 figures. Possibly 7. I looked at my mother. "I'll think about it," I said. She smiled, relieved. "That's all I ask." She stood to leave. I waited until she was at the door. "Hey, Mom." She turned. "If you wanted me to help, you could have called weeks ago, instead of letting them cut me out." The smile faltered. I didn't know what to say. "You didn't have to say anything," I said. "You just had to not stay silent." She left, and I locked the door behind her. That night, Leah and I sat at the kitchen table, the letter between us. "You're not going to give it to them, right?" she asked, voice low. I shook my head. "No." She exhaled. "Good. But I'm not going to keep it either. Not yet. She looked confused. I'm going to use it. Over the next week, I started laying the groundwork. Quietly, methodically. I called Ben and told him I needed a few days off. I hired a real estate attorney, someone local, someone sharp. We met twice in person, once over the phone. I gave him the letter, the history, the family politics. He listened, took notes, and told me something that changed the game. Technically, without a will, it would have gone to her children. But if she left written intent and you're willing to challenge it, there's a strong case. Especially if the rest of the family wasn't involved in upkeep. They weren't. Not once. I'll file the petition, he said. We'll let the court decide. But I wasn't stopping there. I started calling contractors, inspectors, surveyors. Not to sell, to restore. The house was old, yes, but it had bones. Good ones. A deep foundation. Real potential. And suddenly, I saw something else. A long game. While they squabbled over how to split a fictional sale price, I'd be renovating. While they played tug-of-war over a property they didn't legally own, I'd be building equity. And when the dust settled, I'd hold the keys. And something far more valuable. Legacy. 2 weeks later, Jordan called. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was tense. Hey, so? Mom said you might be helping with the house stuff? That's great, man. Really. Listen, we've been doing some research and the place might be worth more than we thought. Like, a lot more. So if you could, push that paperwork through fast. We'll cut you a bigger slice. I played the message for Leah. She rolled her eyes. A slice. The next day, I got a message from Paige. Caleb, I've been thinking a lot about everything. I just want to say I'm sorry if I was out of line about the vacation stuff. Leah's great. You're great. Let's move forward. It was like watching rats smell smoke before a fire. But I wasn't ready yet. Not until the final piece was in place. I made one more call to the town's zoning board. Asked about short-term rental permits. Turns out, the area had just lifted restrictions. The beach house could legally operate as a vacation rental. The kind that makes a lot more money than a one-time sale. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a blank sheet of paper and wrote out my plan, step by step. Finalize legal claim to the house. Begin renovation. Update the plumbing, kitchen, and siding. Apply for rental license. Turn the house into a luxury short-term rental, year-round income. Invite no one. I didn't want to humiliate them. I wanted them to watch. To see what they threw away. To feel the absence. And just when they'd finally convinced themselves I was gone for good, they'd hear my name again. But not as a brother. Not as a son. As the owner. It took 5 months. 5 months of paperwork, planning, calls, late-night number crunching, early morning contractor visits, and endless patience. But the beach house, my beach house, came back to life. We started with the bones. Reinforced the deck, fixed the roof, replaced the rotting dock planks. Then the interior. Leah had an eye for design, and I let her run wild. Every room was repainted with warm coastal tones. We knocked down a wall to open the kitchen. Added new fixtures, modern appliances, luxury linens, smart locks, cameras, even a welcome basket concept for future guests. We took out the stained carpets and revealed the beautiful original hardwood underneath. I hired a local photographer to capture everything once the renovations were done. The before and after images were so stark it was hard to believe they were of the same property. When the photos went live on the site we listed it on, we booked our first weekend within 48 hours. By month 6, we were booked solid for the next 3. But here's the thing, they still didn't know. The court had ruled in my favor quietly, decisively. The letter had been enough, combined with testimony from Grandma's old neighbors who remembered me as the only one who visited her in those last 2 years. My siblings didn't contest it. They didn't even show up. I'm guessing they assumed I'd cave and split it once it was legally mine. But I didn't. I had my attorney notify them with a single, cold, formal letter. The property now legally belongs to Caleb. All prior claims are null. Do not trespass. They didn't reply. For a while, it was quiet. Peaceful. Leah and I visited the house once every few weeks, just to make sure everything was running smoothly. Sometimes we stayed for a night ourselves between bookings. Each time, it felt more like a retreat we had earned, not inherited, but built. We even framed Grandma's original letter and hung it in the hallway. A private tribute. Then, about 3 months after the court ruling, I got a text from Jordan. Hey, quick question. Is there any way we could stay at the house for a weekend in August? Just us and the kids. We'd pay, obviously. Paige and Mom were thinking it'd be nice to go back, like old times. I stared at the message for a full minute. I almost ignored it. Almost. But then, I remembered the picture. Looks like we didn't need you after all. So I opened the calendar, saw that weekend was still open, and replied, "Of course. You can book it like anyone else. Here's the link, rental listing link." 5 minutes later, I got a reply. "Wait, this is you." I didn't answer. Another message followed. "You're seriously running it as a rental? And not even a family discount?" Then another. "So you're profiting off it now?" That's what Grandma would have wanted. I finally replied, "Yes." She would have wanted someone who cared to take care of it. I did. You didn't. That shut him up for a while. But the next message wasn't from Jordan. It was from Mom. She wrote, "I'm disappointed, Caleb. You know your siblings made mistakes, but punishing everyone like this? Over a vacation? Over a misunderstanding?" I took a deep breath and typed slowly. It wasn't about a vacation. It was about years of being treated like I didn't matter. Like Leah didn't matter. Like I was only useful when I was paying or fixing things. This house. It's not punishment. It's proof. Proof that I can build something without needing any of you. She left it on read. I thought that would be the end of it. But Paige, being Paige, couldn't resist. 2 weeks later, she booked a weekend using a fake name. I didn't catch it right away. But when the confirmation came through, something felt off. The name was odd, and the payment method was tied to a burner account. Leah and I double-checked and pulled up the phone number linked to the reservation. It was hers. She tried to sneak in. So I canceled the reservation. No refund. Sent her a short message. "Next time you try to lie your way into my house, try using a name that isn't tied to your high school email account." She didn't reply. Instead, she posted on Facebook a long, ranting status about greedy relatives who betray the family over property and value money over blood. She didn't name me directly, but the subtext was obvious. I had mutual friends messaging me, asking if I was okay. I said I was better than okay. I was free. Because here's what no one tells you about cutting off toxic family. The peace you gain is worth every ounce of guilt they try to sling at you. And it didn't stop with the beach house. The logistics business I co-founded with Ben, it exploded. We landed a 6-figure contract with a regional distribution network, and I was able to hire a full-time team within 8 months. I gave Leah a ring that made her cry all over again, this time out of joy. We got married at the beach house. Just a small ceremony. 20 guests. No family from my side. Just the people who actually loved us. Who showed up. Who chose us. We said our vows with the ocean behind us, Grandma's letter framed near the altar. Afterward, Leah leaned in and whispered, she'd be proud. I looked at the house, glowing in the sunset, filled with laughter and music and love. She'd be relieved, I said. A month later, Jordan tried one last time. Called me drunk. Said he was in town and thought he'd stop by the house. Just to see it. I told him if he showed up, the cameras would catch him, and the police would be called for trespassing. He hung up. I haven't heard from him since. Haven't heard from any of them, really. Every so often, someone from the extended family reaches out. Tries to play mediator. Says things like, life's too short. Or, you should forgive and forget. And I always answer the same way. I did forgive. I just didn't forget. That's why they're not welcome. The house is booked 6 months out now. We added a small plaque above the entryway that reads, built from ashes. Kept with fire. Guests always ask what it means. I just smile and say, it's a long story. But it always ends the same. With a locked door. And me, on the other side of it. Smiling. Because I am no longer their wallet. I am no longer their fallback plan. I am no longer their brother, or their son, or their scapegoat. I am the owner. And they are just people who used to know me. They tried to take my family from me, so I built one without them, brick by brick, and locked the door behind me.